Hey everybody, it's Mary. Welcome back to the Who Is She journey. This week we are talking about alignment and joy and how the two intersect. And did you ever think that you could keep joy sustainable throughout the year and not just through somebody telling you on a commercial or in a magazine how to feel joyful during the holiday season? Like, why can't we be joy-filled throughout the year? My name is Mary. This is kind of like the time of year, even though I wasn't born in December, it's kind of like the time of year that people most associate with my name because of the spelling of it. But, sometimes it's hard to feel merry or joy all the time. But I have been doing some great research over the past couple of months, and joy can be sustainable. There are 5 ways in order to live a joy-filled life. We're going to delve into each one of those, which will lead into the download that I have for you for this month of the Alignment and Joy workbook. So go ahead and download that now. I'll see you on the other side right in the program. So let's get started. Hey everyone, so let's talk about alignment and joy and how they intersect for this holiday season as well as throughout the year. But let me first talk about the 5 ways to make joy sustainable. So as I mentioned, I've got the download for you of the Alignment and Joy workbook. If you want to go and if you haven't already, download that now. Go ahead and pause the video, download it so that you can follow along with the session, because I think it's important that, especially with everything that's going on in the world, that we take a look at conserving our energies, keeping our mind clear, keeping us focused, and being able to stay in our lane, stay in our path toward the next best version of ourselves. Let me just say that, not even toward our goal or a dream. It's what is that next best version of yourself? Because sometimes all of the noise out there clouds that. We want to put that aside and stay on this journey of who is she, the next best version of ourselves. So the 5 ways to stay joyful that we're going to talk about throughout this session, throughout the year, is number 1, knowing your values. I talk about this all the time, and when we get into the workshop a little bit more, then I'm gonna talk to you about doing some values work, because I don't think that we slow down enough to even understand what we stand for, not what others think that we stand for, but what do we stand for and what's important to us. I don't think that we do enough work around that. And I've got another program called the Unshakable Journey, and that is a values-based program. I'm going to put a link to that. I think the workbook is like $7 to download it and get on with it if you are struggling with your values, because I think that this is like step number 1. This is super, super important. The next is your boundaries. And I think that in order to set boundaries and keep them, make your boundaries sustainable, that you first need to know your values. What do you stand for? Because once you stand for something, then people can't cross that line, or you don't cross that line and say yes when you mean no, and you do things when you really just don't want to be a people pleaser, right? So understanding your values and then being able to set your boundaries. Like, where do you get to drive your own bus? Like, where do you get to make your life the way you want it to? And then, I don't think that we take enough time to get quiet and sit down and look at what joy is to us and notice where joy comes from, because it can come from a walk. It can come from those peaceful moments. Joy doesn't always come when we're surrounded by a group of people, or sometimes it's the small things that matter. And where might those small things be for you? Or if it is being around other people that brings you joy, then how can you do more of that and have the right people in the room or the right people at the table all the time? That's sustainable joy. And the next is reducing emotional noise. This up here, like, I catch myself, like this morning, I even caught myself when my husband drops his sweater on the couch and has left it there for 2 days, because I was like, well, I'm just going to see if he notices that it's there without getting angry. Well, come to find out, he didn't. Obviously, he didn't see it. So instead of trash talking him and trash talking, like getting angry about it, I just picked it up and threw it on the bed and was like, you know what? We can address this another time. I don't need to get angry over a sweater. Like, where is that emotional noise? Because I'm the one that's starting it. Like, I'm the one that controls that, not him. That's me. That's on me. So where do you get set off an emotional noise, and what can you do to mitigate it? And then number 5 is choosing a joy aligned micro actions daily. And these micro actions are simple as saying no, but you don't have to say it in a nasty way. You just say, no, that's not something that I want to do right now, or no, that doesn't fit into my schedule today, or no, I can't do that for you today, but I could do that on Friday. Would that work for you? You don't have to come at this pushing, because once we push, then we are actually going in the opposite direction of being the next best version of ourselves. And and then listening to our body, and because our body knows when it's time to rest. And again, I think that it can be sitting down for a quiet cup of tea or a cup of coffee, or sipping on a delicious glass of wine, just getting some quiet space, lighting a candle. I've always got a candle going when I do these workshops, just to keep me grounded and have that fragrance, that beautiful fragrance around me. So how can you go and keep this a joy aligned in your life? But it's micro movements on a daily basis. So those are the 5 ways that we're going to talk about in this session. I hope you're ready. Okay, so let's dive a little deeper. Let's go back. Let's, dial it back and take this a little bit slower, because I think that some of you, I know that for me, myself, it takes me a while to get my juices flowing when I'm doing any journaling about myself, or doing any of this, anything in the workbook, the Alignment Plus Joy workbook that goes with this particular session. So let's dial it back a little and talk about values. The number one thing that I try and get everybody to work on is values. And it's not easy. People don't like to work on values, and they tend to turn the other cheek or whatever. But values are important, because it is truly a compass. It guides us to making decisions, hopefully good ones or better ones than we had in the past. But it is a way for us to reflect on what we're doing, where we're going, who we're with, what we are agreeing to or not agreeing to. Those types of things are all values based. And there is another workbook that I have on my website called Unshakable. And it is a values, how to actually go and define your values for yourself. Because I find with my coaching clients and with other people that I converse with in my workshops, is that they end up, when they decide on once they do a values-based work, then they find themselves in comparison with somebody else. Like, oh, I like that value, or I don't have family down on my values. So this is how it works. Values are things that are important to you. And for me, what's important to me is freedom. That doesn't mean that I don't love my family, that I don't want to be with my family. That doesn't have anything to do with it. When I talk about freedom, what freedom means to me is that I have freedom of choice. Because for me, in my past life, I felt as though I didn't have a voice. So freedom to me is freedom of choice, freedom of decision, freedom of where to live, freedom of how to love, freedom of who to love. So freedom for me might mean something different for you. Now, nowhere actually on my values list is family. That doesn't mean that I don't love and adore my family and can't wait to be, for instance, wait to be with my daughters when I'm overseas. The freedom that I have, my abundant lifestyle, being financially independent lifestyle, I get the freedom that I have allows me to go and see my girls and go and see my family. So family does not have to be one of my values because it's wrapped up in other things. So I don't want you to go through a values program or doing values work and try and compare yourself to somebody else, because this is all about you, and you is all that matters right now, and that's what we want to take a look at. So in this month's workbook of alignment and joy, you're going to do a little snippet of values work. If you want to go into it deeper, I suggest you head over to the website, the Braving Midlife website, and download the Unshakable workbook. I think it's $7 to download the workbook, and it will get you to be able to define your values for you. But this might get you going. So answer this: what are my strengths? And then, what are my weaknesses? It's important that you know both sides of you, because we all of us have a good, just like a coin, right? There's like the penny has heads up or tail down or whatever. We have two sides to us. We have strengths and we have weaknesses. You want to recognize them, because those will play into your values as to what you want to pull out more of in your life. What do you want to experience more of yourself in your life? And that will help you define your values. And question number 2 is, what is important to me? What's important to me on a daily basis? And what do I want to fill my life with on a daily basis? And then, how much time do I actually spend in that place? Because if I am in spending time in what's important to me, then I want to make sure that I'm doing more of that I'm allowing for more of that in my life, and understanding where that comes from. And a lot of times what we have to do in order to find out what's important to us is we have to go back in time. So, this is December now. You could go back to January and go through every month. I write everything down in my calendar. So I have a good time, going through what I went through, or the kinds of things that I was thinking, or who I was with, who I was hanging out with. So you go back to January and take a look at what brought you joy. Where were you when you were having a good time? Where were you when you were light or full of love, or living a joy-filled life, for instance? Where were you when you were living in your strengths instead of coming from your weaknesses? And jot those down, jot those times down, because that's important. How much time did you get to spend, or how much time did you allow yourself to spend when you were in using your strengths instead of your weaknesses? That includes your head too, because a lot of times our head will really mess us up and have us focus on our weaknesses and not our strengths. So you gotta watch out for that mind stuff. All of this is in the Unshakable values-based workbook. You got to be ready for it, and it's not something that you're going to do in a day, because sometimes we're playing this mind game of fighting up against ourselves. But this is this is great stuff, right? This is identifying your core values. So I often say to people, identify 3 to 5 core values, and then you can create like your mantra that describes you, so something that you want everybody to know about you, so that you get treated in a way, and you come from that place of being that person that is your core values. And number 2 is like the boundaries. It's creating what is called in the workbook the alignment audit. What parts of your life feel true, what parts are forced, and where does misalignment show up and cause tension. But I think that once you identify your values and then you answer those 3 questions, what happens is you're going to come up with boundaries. You're going to come to a place where you don't want to cross. You don't want to go and do something against yourself, for instance. You don't want to self-sabotage. And if you do, then you want to notice it so that then you can self-correct, because this isn't about trash talking ourselves. It's just like saying, oh, here I go again. Okay, let's back this up. Let's reel this back in. How did this happen? How did I say yes when I meant no? How did I not give myself time to rest? And so on and so forth. Whatever those boundaries are for you, you want to make sure that your values are in alignment with these this alignment audit and those questions, so that you can set up boundaries and work forward from that and know where you are, and just have this knowing that there's this compass that's guiding you, this inner compass. And then the daily joy practices. So it's, I talk about this all the time too, like taking tiny steps. What are the tiny steps that you can take that bring you joy? Where do you want to spend more time in your day? What do you want to spend more time in your day on? And how can you get there? How can you find that time to spend in your day so that you have these tiny snippets of joy practices? And then you got to notice it. You've got to recognize that you're in that place right now, so that your subconscious can help you out when you're struggling in areas, and can guide you back to the sustainable, joy-filled life throughout the year. Number 4 is reducing the joy leaks. Boundaries and saying no allows us to rest, take a step back. It gives us space. It gives us a knowing that we are living as our true self, so that going forward, we are always following this path of looking for, who is she? Who is this next best version of myself? And where can I find her? And this isn't about saying, for instance, yes when you really want to say no. It's finding where the cracks are. Where are those weak spots? Where that sends the house all tumbling down? And then committing to a joy ritual. I don't really like that word ritual for myself, actually. I prefer, more of, it's just me time. And so whatever you want to call it, you do you, but it's creating that morning ritual. Like for me, my night ritual is putting essential oils in my hands and rubbing them together and breathing them in 3 or 4 times really deep, and then rubbing my feet. I have special cream that I like to put on my feet, and then I put socks on my feet to keep them nice and cozy and warm. And then I'm ready to lay down and ready to rest for the evening. And while I'm rubbing my feet, I'm constantly thanking them for keeping me up straight and keeping me going throughout my day. So it's kind of like this yummy little ritual that I get to share with myself, and I get to thank myself for what I've done during the day. and then I can rest and relax, and my mind tends to stay clear of what self-sabotaging thoughts might come creeping back in. So I hope that this was helpful for you in knowing that joy is your birthright. You are allowed to feel joyful. It's not a luxury. I like to think of joy as a type of leadership because I'm the one that gets to choose, and so do you. You are the one that gets to choose your joy-filled life. So until next month, I hope you'll find this helpful and reflective, and as we go into the new year, about how you can sustain a joy-filled life. So ciao for now, and I'll see you right back here next month.